Triple Crown winner, a Breeders' Cup winner, a horse of a lifetime!
Hello and welcome to Tournament Talk on the Tournament Edge. I'm Bobby Shoemaker. That's Barry Spears. Barry and I are coming to you for 4 races on Saturday, November 7th, 2 at Aqueduct, 1 at Churchill Downs, and we'll end the show at Del Mar. Barry, we will start the Big A on Saturday. It's race 7 at Aqueduct. It's a 1-mile event on the dirt. It's a $57,000 allowance race for state breds, 3-year-olds and up. And Uncle Si, according to the morning line, is the horse to beat.
Yeah, and, you know, just before I get into any of the contenders, I think this race here is right for a new up-and-coming horse to kind of break through. So, you know, I'll start with Uncle Si. He disappointed twice as the favorite since his comeback. And he really didn't look all that good. He looked kind of like an ordinary horse, if you will, for someone, you know, that was on the Derby trail, ran in the Derby in 2014, didn't run so well that day, but didn't really look like the same kind of animal with the same kind of oomph up front that I was used to seeing and what I liked about this horse initially. So I'm guessing this horse, you know, is training forward. It looks like he's heading in the right direction. He's changed barns, changed owners, which may come in a little bit of play here. They might need some time to figure him out. But at this point, 8-5 morning line, he might be a pass for me here. Probably, I can't say fight. He definitely will be a pass for me. The next horse I took a long look at is Euros for Dollars, the 6th, out of the Brian Lynch barn. He has a lot of upside on the stretch out here. He's going long for the first time. He caught a good track last time that he may not have liked. Didn't look like he took to it. He was the favorite that day. Finished 5th, non-threatening, just kind of a spinner on the track, if you will. So he may be able to bounce back and do something good here. He's probably going to be on the lead. But, you know, I still have my questions about him. But he definitely rates a long look in this spot. The horse who ends up being my pick is number 10, Lehigh 5. And this is what I was alluding to earlier when I spoke about a horse that could break through. This one looks like the type that he could come in and do some damage on the stretch out. He broke his maiden back in January by 10 as the favorite that day and just overpowered his competition there, which does tend to happen in some maiden races. Then he caught a good track going longer, didn't really run much, and they laid him off for about 7 months. So coming back, he caught a sloppy track, made up some ground towards the end. He's in light here today, and I think this is going to be the right spot for him to break through at a nice price. You know, Junior Alvarado is riding as good as anyone, so, you know, I don't have any problems with this Violet horse taking it.
Well, that's good. Hey, 10-1 morning line, you can't beat that, and I expect you'll get every bit of that, if not more. Couldn't agree more in regards to Uncle Si, Barry. This horse has went off at 3-5 in both races that he's been in this year, going shorter, and has finished poorly in both events. Beat 3 1/4 lengths coming off the layoff, and then last race, which really I thought would have been his best chance to win this year, and just ran up the track, beat 5.5 lengths. Now he's going longer, and he's going to be up against it from a pace scenario because there are several horses, including Piercing Prize, Euros to Dollars, Your Horse to 10, who all want to be forwardly placed. So he's going to have company up front, and he's going longer. This is exactly what you want from a horse to play against at 8-5. And he'll probably take even more money because people are going to look back at the races in 2014 and who he faced and probably bet him anyway. And I just think it's a horrible bet. And to be quite honest, I give this horse no shot to win. I don't think he wins. In fact, I'll be surprised if he finishes in the money. He's going to have a lot of pace present. He wants to be on the front end himself. And I just look for this horse to quit. when they're turning for home. I'll get right to it. My selection is the 8, Full of Mine. And I don't typically bet horses off one race, specifically their last effort. But the last race he ran in was his first start this year going 2 turns. And he went off at 71-1 and finished his 3rd on October 24th. He chased a hot pace that day. He closed into it. The numbers increased from a fraction-to-fraction perspective. And if he runs back to that race, he's a major player, especially if they go as fast as I think they're going to go. And there are at least 3 horses, Barry, if not 5 or 6 horses that want to be on the lead, that don't know how else to win or haven't been successful unless they were on the lead, and now they're either back at the same distance in which they were on the lead previously or they're stretching out. And again, a little reluctant because it's just one effort, but, Barry, it is the first race, again, going 2 turns. He goes from a 7-furlong race where he broke his maiden in the slop, and you could say, well, he just liked the slop and he freaked out, but the numbers increased that day, maybe telling ownership that he wants to go longer. They put him in a 1.8 mile race. He appeared to be way over his head. I mean, we're not even talking about a maiden facing allowance company. He's facing $300,000 stakes horses and runs a valiant 3rd, in my opinion. And if he gets the pace scenario that I expect him to get, I think Arroyo is going to get to the rail, save all the ground, swing wide late, make one run. And I think there's going to be a lot of horses quitting in front of him. And I would like to get 6-1. I don't know if I'm betting him to win at 6-1, but if I get an overlay, let's say 8-1 or higher, I'm betting that horse to win. But he's absolutely my tournament play for Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't knock any of that. I mean, in these kind of races, this is what happens where you get horses that, jump up and run a couple good races back to back to back, and then they may fall off a little bit. He may be in that cycle where he's in top form. Yeah. So I definitely can see this horse, rating a good spot and making a nice run. Only negatives I see is the trainer's not a high percentage trainer, but these kind of guys, they may have one good horse in their barn. This might be it, and this horse is going to rate a good shot at probably a decent price. I think you might get that overlay you might be looking for.
Well, and one more thing, you're right that the trainer jockey combination is actually successful. His numbers without Arroyo, they certainly aren't very good. Okay, but when those two get together, they mean business. I just think everything sets up for him, Barry. I think your horse is very talented, and I gave that horse a long look. I just think with so many horses wanting the lead in the wide post, man, if he can overcome that, you're on to something.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think we're both on to the fact that Uncle Si is definitely a bet against.
Just absolutely a play against. That horse got so much publicity for being a part of those very entertaining battles at Aqueduct in the winter. I mean, don't get me wrong, they were fun to watch, but you could, especially the latter part of that Aqueduct meet, you could tell that none of those horses were going to be major players. And Uncle Si's gotten to a point, Barry, where he just can't even win allowance races. And he's just I can't believe that horse is 8-5. And again, I think he's just going to take a lot of money because of what he used to do. But if you even look at the races he was running in then, especially the latter part, I mean, man, you just struggled to even see the competitiveness.
There's a lot to be desired there. I agree with you. I mean, those races back in the winter before the Derby, it looked to me like he peaked.
Right.
That was the ceiling, and it certainly has played out that way. So I don't expect anything different. He's just kind of an ordinary kind of upper echelon New York State bred that might tank on.
And he needs the right scenario. He certainly doesn't need a race like this when he's going to have so much company up front. And I'm not even sure if he's fast enough to comfortably get the lead. I think he might be stressing to get to the lead, which adds to the fact that this horse is just going to quit. I'll tell you, I'll be overly shocked if he even comes close to winning this race.
Yeah, myself as well.
So we move on to race 8 on the card, and Barry, I must say I really enjoyed reading this. It's the 8th race. It's the Grade 3 Long Island. It's a 1.5 miles on the turf for fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. The way I read this race, Barry, is you got a lot of horses that like doing the same thing, and they're about the same level of competition, which can lead for a good betting board.
Absolutely. I mean, you can make a case for 8 of these 11 horses, really.
Yeah.
I thought this was a really competitive race. This is really a place where you can take a shot at somebody other than the favorite. Obviously, is what we want to do, especially as tournament players. We don't want to sit on 2, 3 to 1 shots. We want to see 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 to 1 shots that are really solid. Now, with that being said, there are some Chad Brown runners in here that you're going to have to contend with. With the 1 Gold Espany, who probably will be on the pace, has a lot of good numbers. Also, the 2 Rosalind, very consistent runner. That last race, actually, that Rosalind ran, looks like a huge prep for this race specifically. The horse never has gone to the lead. The horse went to the lead at a 1.25 up in Woodbine in the Grade 1. Dropping down a little bit here to get some softer competition, gets a weight break. 6 to 1 on the morning line, I don't think we're going to get. Although she's not my pick, she's definitely worth a shot if you can get that 6 to 1 price. I mean, this horse is very solid, but I'm just not sold on the fact that you're going to get that 6 to 1. I think she's going to be well below that, more like 2 to 1, 5 to 2-ish, maybe even lower than that if things play out the right way. The next horse I'd like to talk about is the 9, Chrysalis. And this horse is really, really sneaky good. Ran some good races in France, placed in a Group 2 sometime last year in August. But, obviously this horse ran into some kind of physical issues. Been off for a long time. Came back in some lower level optional claimers. Ran good. Not withstanding the competition. There were some really good horses. Ran against Distorted Beauty and Rosalind before up in Saratoga, but laid off again. And that really doesn't sit well with me. When the horses just come back, lay off, come back, lay off, it seems like there's something that's ongoing here that they might not be able to shake out. He's in a great barn out of the Clement barn, but I like actually the other Clement horse, who's the 10, Walk Close. With Manny Franco up, I think that's going to help his price. The horse ran a great race back in July, his last race in the Modesty, which is a Grade 3, and just has been improving since day 1. So I think this horse off this layoff is right where Clement wants him to be. I think the price is going to be there, and I think that this horse is going to finish this race off and kind of break through.
Well, again, you're on a good priced horse, so you can't argue that. And I guess my reservation for the 10, I don't know how fast the pace is going to be, Barry, and that would be a concern to me. And I'm not inventing the wheel here, and believe me, I really tried to beat the 1, Goldie Espony, I guess is how you would say it, and I just couldn't do it. In a race of this magnitude, when you're going this far, which typically horses in this country aren't bred to go 1.5 miles, and I know we see that more on the dirt than we do the turf, but nevertheless, we don't breed horses in the U.S. to specifically go that distance. This horse is from France, absolutely bred to do this. This horse has won at 1.5 miles twice, and no other horse in this field can say that. Now, I understand 2 starts back. I mean, she basically walked the dog on the front end and had it her way, and I do get that. But again, she gets a ground-saving trip on the rail the entire way. We talked about Chad Brown. We do this every week on the show. I mean, Chad Brown on the turf, it's unfair, and I would not be surprised one bit if the 1 and the 2 don't go first and second and run first and second. I mean, I just. That's how I see this race playing out. I did everything I could to try to like the 4, evidently. I mean, I almost made up numbers to like the 4, evidently. But the fact of the matter is, the horse isn't good enough. Is the horse going to set what I feel like is a good trip? I do. But again, I don't know the pace of the race. The X factor is the horse that you talked about, the 9 horse. If the 9 pushes the 1, then the pace could speed up, and then you're looking at a different dynamic. But I just don't know that's going to happen. And I've got a price horse in the next race. I don't know if you're going to get 5 to 1 on this horse either, but I know he's the most reliable horse. I trust Chad Brown. I was successful with Carmouche over the summer at Saratoga. He proved to me he could ride on the turf. He proved to me that he's got good timing in his head. And this race is going to be all about timing. When you're talking about a 1.5 mile race, it's about when you're turning your horse loose. You got to have that clock in your head. And I just look for the one to either be on the lead or be forwardly placed. And it just looks like the best horse in the race to me. And unfortunately, I probably won't get a price. And I'm not betting this horse to win. But I think this is a safe tournament play. And I look for a long shot, as I said, trying to find the 4. I just can't do it, Barry. I just think the 1's too good, and I think the 1 wins the race.
Yeah, actually, I think you might get your price. I mean, if you think about it, look at the 3 horse. Danza Cavallo is another Chad Brown horse who rates an excellent chance to win this. And in fact, he might even go off this as a chalk.
Maybe so. I just can't. I will be surprised if the 1 doesn't go off the favorite. I don't know how the 1 can't go off the favorite, considering the last 3 races alone. And we talked about this off the air. Bettors look at what have you done for me lately. I mean, and you look at the last race, the 1 lost in. Look how fast they went early. But then if you go back to 2 starts back, how this race I think may be similarly run, you're not beating the 1.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Now, the only thing is Danza Cavallo and the 8, the shipper from Ireland. Mutandis.
Yeah, hey, right.
That horse, ran. Both of those horses ran behind Stephanie's Kitten, who came back to win in the Breeders' Cup. So, I believe just the way the public kind of tends to think in these kind of situations, they're like, okay, well, this horse runs behind a Breeders' Cup winner. Why not they rate a chance in this, Grade 3 race? So those 2, I think, are going to take a lot of play, and I think this board might be a little bit even as far as those horses, and that's really great for guys like us because we're going to look for that value, and your 1 might end up being close to what he is more in line, if not maybe a little lower, but even possibly
take 4 to 1 in the tournament if you're setting it up to play long shots before or after this horse. You have to do that now.
I agree with you. At anything over 6, 7, 1, that horse may be the automatic play.
Well, then I'm betting the horse to win.
Right.
There's no question about that. I understand what you're saying about the 2 as well. I think the last race you could look at it as a prep because he never went to the lead before. I just think the 1 and the 2 are the 2 best horses in the race, and that's how they look to me on paper. I think they're the ones that are capable of being successful this far, especially the 1. 5 to 1, 6 to 1. I'd be even tempted to bet an exacta to hit the button 3 or 4 times at those odds.
Yeah, you might be getting that pair of 4 to 1s, and that's a hell of an exacta in my book. I don't know about anybody else's, but
no question.
I like to look for.
So who are you on once again, Barry?
I am on the 10. Walk close,
and I'm on the 1. Goldie Esponi. I just think gets the lead and wires the field. So we're going to move on to my favorite race of the 4 that we read, Barry, because I found myself a long shot. And it's race 9 at Churchill Downs. It's a $60,000 allowance optional claimer. It's 1 mile on the turf for fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. As a bettor, Barry, what can you ask for? You're going 2 turns on the turf with a ton of horses in the field. If you get a good trip and you get a price, you might leave the racetrack a happy man.
Absolutely, and I somewhere I've heard that 2 turns on the turf.
It's the Twitter handle of a very wise man. Very wise man.
That's correct. That my turf consultant. But yeah, this race is really interesting because again, this is like that New York race we had earlier, where this is screaming for a horse to step up and break through, and I think this is a chance for that because the horse that I'll talk about first is 1 Liz, who on paper looks like the choice. This horse may, be one of the better horses next year or over the winter down in Florida if they will ship. It looks like they will ship this horse down to Florida after this race.
They are going to.
Looks like this horse is going to be pointing to some good things later. And I don't think that this horse is going to be there for Saturday. And that's why I'm looking elsewhere. The numbers are there. Looks like a good one. I think this horse is going to give a good account of herself. But I just don't think Saturday's the day. I think there's bigger and better things down the road for this horse, but not Saturday. So then I'll go on to the next horse, the 2, Candy Crush, who is a deep closer. I mean, this horse likes to come from way downtown. May get the pace here, but I just can't bet a horse that comes from this far out without a dream trip. And I don't know from the 2-hole that horse can get this kind of trip without any traffic trouble. Has a nice record, on the turf, at the distance as well. But I'm going to look elsewhere. The numbers are a little bit light, speed figure-wise.
Hey, and Barry, to cut you off for a second, because you make a great point. I mean, going a mile if you're a deep closer is a whole lot of difference than going a mile and a 16th. I mean, that mile makes it very difficult. And I don't care how hot the pace is. If you're coming from that far back at a mile distance, I just think you're really up against it unless you're a super horse. And I don't see a super horse in this field. No,
not at all. Now, that comes to my choice, who is the 4, Nominative, who was laid off since September, mid-September. For the Maker Barn. Now, this horse has really competitive figures early last year. Running at Gulfstream, ran some bang-up races against some pretty good competition in the thick of that meet. And I think this horse can come back to that. I think that's what they're trying to do. Maker has really good numbers with these types. And I think that this is the horse, at least for me, at a good price. Joe Rocco Jr., 6-1. I think it's a go. I'm going to push that button.
Well, Barry, I looked long and hard at nominative, but I just don't think 6-1 is going to be what you get on this horse. In fact, to me, I think this horse brings more to the table than the 7-1 Liz, and maybe 1 Liz does end up going off the favorite, but I think the 4 horse is going to be bet well below my comfort zone. And I just think that this is going to be a very high pace early, which obviously does set up well for your horse, but also sets up well for horses that maybe ran a mile and a 16th, mile and an 8th last race. They go back to the mile that enables them to set off this hot pace, set a good trip, and make one run. And I want you to go to the 5 horse, Yazuru. This horse is second off the claim. And I found something very interesting. As soon as this horse gets claimed, and this horse was not beating anything before the claim. This horse, in a workout, runs 4 furlongs in 47. A bullet workout, beats 19 home, takes the lead in a mile and 8th race at Keeneland for this price and almost wires this field. Now they're going back to a mile distance. I think it's the perfect setup for the 5 at 15-1. I think the mile hits him between the eyes. I think he's going to stalk several of the pace horses, turn for home, get first run on the closers, including your horse, pay a monster price. This is my bet of the show. This is probably my bet of the weekend. I'm going to hammer this horse at the window, and this horse is going to help me win a tournament. And one more point that I'd like to bring up about the 5 horse. I bet a horse on Thursday with similar credentials. A horse that had won a mile and a 16th, had been on the front end and quit at about the 8th pole and run a game second, and the numbers were there. They put him back in a mile race. Granted, he went off at low odds, but he won the race going away by stalking the pace. I think this is what the 5 is going to do, but he's going to do it at a heck of a lot better odds than the 2-1 that I got today. This horse is going to be 15-1 at least, and this horse is going to win this race.
Yeah, no, I can't talk you off that horse in a million years, and I would never. It definitely rates a long shot. I was actually going to mention that horse as somebody to really keep your eye on because, like you said, he's kind of dirtied up a little bit. That last race, going that long and taking the lead, then cutting back down, actually dropping in class a little bit, getting some weight off, which is an angle I like a lot. And I think he's going to be really competitive in here and definitely rates a shot.
And something else that handicappers have to look at, Barry, is that this horse wakes up as soon as he's claimed. I mean, clearly the new connections have found something in this horse. This horse woke up in a big way and run as good a numbers as you could run. Now, Monmouth, I found, especially on the turf, and it's similar to Gulfstream, those numbers are skewed. The numbers at Monmouth say they're higher than what they really are. And a lot of the horses that come from Monmouth and run other places, the numbers don't dictate exactly how good they are. I found that Keeneland turf translates very well to Churchill Downs because it's a similar type turf course. And I just think this 5 is ready to run a big one. And I think, again, the mile hits him between the eyes. Now I'm excited, man. 15-1 is this. These are the type of horses that I took advantage of all summer long at Saratoga and Del Mar, and as you know, was very successful. This is a Bobby Shoemaker play.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, he definitely, was on my radar for sure. So that may be the exacta play right there is the nominative and Yuzuru. Exactly.
That's right. So we're getting some tongue-tying names tonight. Welcome to turf racing.
Tongue-tied over here.
Yeah. So we'll end tonight's tournament talk show with race 8 at Del Mar. Barry, it's a 1.16 on the turf. It's the Catherine Crosby Stakes for fillies and mares, 3-year-old and up, an 8-horse field. A lot of talent, a lot of back class, but a lot of horses coming off the layoff. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, this is a really, really interesting race, especially from a betting standpoint, because, again, I think this is a race where there's going to be a lot of horses around the same price. Even the favorite, I wouldn't be surprised the favorite was 5-2 here. There's a lot of talent, like you said, especially with the one in the Showbiz Gold. It was really well meant early in her career. And then something went amiss, and they laid the horse off since February after running two kind of lackluster efforts at distances, mind you. I think the horse likes to go longer than what she was running at a mile. This is a better situation for her here today off the layoff. Probably will get bet a lot with the connections, Mike Smith. I just think she will bounce back, but I don't think today's the day or Saturday.
She's very brittle. That's why we're seeing such huge layoff lines, and I love where your head's at here. We certainly agree there. This horse is going to take a ton of money. It's an absolute play against from not only the fact that it's the layoff. Horses that are brittle, they don't get in the work that they need to get in off the layoff like this, and there's other talented horses in this race that fit better from a pace perspective and certainly are in form, healthy, and have worked out like a horse is supposed to work out in a stakes race.
Right, and I think this might be kind of a setup. It might not be the one that the connections are looking for. Just off, like you said, the long layoff, the dropping class. They obviously don't want to run a horse too low, but they want to keep her competitive. So I think this is a good spot for this horse to come back. Now, with that said, we go to the second horse, who's the 2-3 Heart. Has a nice record, but just doesn't seem the kind of horse that likes to win races at this distance. I think the horse likes to go longer. Just cut back the distance will help Joe Talmo, but the layoff is another concern from July. I'm not really sure, what went wrong there, and the horse didn't really run any good the last 2 times he's been out on the track. He's another play against the price. Now, the horse I ended up liking and going with pick number 4, Castover. She's a proving pattern. Coming at some races down or actually up in Sacramento, Solano. And I think Dorfus spotted her pretty well here for victory. I don't see any horses besides getting that first run. So with that being, I think she's a nice price at 5-1, and she's definitely my play.
Okay, Barry. Well, by the way, we're having some audio issues on your end. I'm not sure what's going on there, but you repeat your play once again. Your top pick.
My top pick is Catherine.
Okay, so I looked at this race as being another race, Barry, where a lot of horses want to be forwardly placed. And we talked about this before. You don't know how the pace scenario is going to play out when there's a ton of horses that like to do the same thing. Will they go out to the front end and set a fast pace and compromise each other? Or will all the jockeys read the form and say, well, we need to take hold of our horses, and they go slow? So it's really a fine line. And it's really kind of a guessing game. So I went with a horse that I think is going to be forwardly placed, but it doesn't necessarily need the lead and has maybe proven some versatility. And that would be the 6. Inaria Freebie, I guess would be the name. Again, trying to figure out these names here. I liked the race first time in the U.S. Was going a mile. I feel like was a prep race for this race. The numbers increased. Ran a solid race at a mile. Going to a mile at this point. I think the 6 should be sixthly placed. As you know, any horse, unless they're trained by Chad Brown, has to improve second time in the United States and has every right to get better. And I think the mile and a 16th fits this horse's skill set the best. I think he'll track horses like the 1, like the 7, like the 8. And when they turn for home, you'll see how much the horse has left in the tank. And I think there will be plenty. I like the workout tab, some solidly placed drills. I like the October 28th work, Barry, where don't really look at the exact number. Just look how far they went with the horse. I mean, 6 furlongs. I like that type of work. I think this horse is ready to pop, and I am becoming more of an advocate of second off a layoff than I am third off the layoff. I'm just starting to notice, Barry, over the last year of really diving into handicapping and learning the sport as much as I've learned over the last year, that horses tend to run even bigger races second off because the first one is that prep that you talked about that really gets one under the belt and they're ready to pop the second race. So I think the 6 has every right to improve. And I look for the 6 to win the race. The problem is 5 to 1. I don't think I'll get that. I think the horse might be bet down a little bit. Obviously, it's not as much as the 1 to Shova's Goal, but I think the horse might be second choice. One more horse I wanted to give you really quickly is the 8 horse, Full Ransom. If you go 2 starts back on this horse ran a whale of a race at a mile. Ran it on the front end, contested all the way around the racetrack, and still was able to win. Last start, drew the 10 hole, and I don't know what the jock was doing. I mean, just refused to not be on the lead or try to be on the lead. Wide, all the way around the racetrack. Expect a much better effort this time out from Full Ransom and a shorter field in a race. I know where the 8's going. Straight to the front end, and I think could be a player. And if the 6 is bet down below my liking for a tournament play, then I'm going to take a shot with Full Ransom. If this horse runs back to 2 starts back, major player.
Yeah, I agree. Full Ransom, if you look at who she ran against, Castle Silver and your horse, the 6, Energia Fribby,
yeah,
they were all in the same race. And if you look at the line for Full Ransom, she was really close to that pace, way outside.
Unbelievable.
And only a length, at one point, even a 3/4 of a length off the lead, and kind of hung in there until the end and faded at 35 to 1.
Right.
There's no reason why that horse can't turn the tables on those horses, especially in this smaller field, might get a better position to make a run. I mean, the horse really had no shot the last time.
No, and we just talked about, you know, a lot of horses want to do the same thing. Well, what if everyone takes back except the 8? Now, you know where Full Ransom's going. There's no bones about it. That horse is going to lead. He's going to go as fast as he can for as long as he can. Absolutely use the 8 in your exotics. If the 6 horse, who I think is the best horse in the race, especially second off the layoff, is bet below your comfort zone and you need a price, I think the 8 is where to go, because this horse can win this race and run its best race at Del Mar, where they're running at, obviously, on Saturday. And you absolutely have to include this horse in your exactas, tries, and superfectas, Barry.
Yeah, absolutely, especially at a big price like that. I mean, I see the 7 horse who shows speed too.
Right.
But I'm not sure if that horse fits here. You know, I'm not really sure that horse is actually quicker than Full Ransom, based on the competition that Full Ransom's been running with for a few races now. I think that horse raised an excellent chance and can't be discounted at a big price.
No, and you never can discount speed, guys. I mean, when you get horses on the front end, here's what you know on the turf. There will be no bad trip. And when you're talking about turf racing, I mean, how many times do we hear this? One horse won the race and about 4 others could have. I mean, that's what you hear all the time, and this 8 is going to lead. And I'm just hoping my 6 can can set that good trip, you know, I don't know, Barry, 2-3 lengths off and make one run. And again, proves off the effort. The 6 is probably going to me, is probably going to prove to be the horse to beat. So before we go, your top play for the 4 races that we covered on Saturday.
My top play would be nominative at Churchill Downs.
Well, we're going head-to-head again because the 5 Yuzuru is going to win this race and pay a monster price. So that does it this week for Barry Spears and Bobby Shoemaker on Tournament Talk on the Tournament Edge. And until next week, good luck.